going to go ahead and file a 471. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? Got your paperwork with you? I would be remiss if I didn't point out to you at this point. I asked you to bring a copy of your 470 and 471. If you did not bring a copy of your 470 and 471, I will show you how to get it. You are supposed to be keeping everything yourself. You are going to certify at the end of this form that you are keeping everything for 10 years. By keeping, it does not mean, oh, I'm sorry, USAC, that's on your site, let me download that for you. That means have it somewhere yourself. Electronic folder, regular folder, nice little binder with a year on it. However you choose to do it is fine, but you should be keeping everything. The very first thing that we will do when we get into the portal.usac.org, I don't know why it keeps shrinking my stuff. I think I maybe made it too big now. Portal.usac.org is I will show you where to get those printouts. When you come to the very bottom of your landing page, you are going to click on Form 470 or Form 471 and this funding year or last funding year. So if you're looking at last year's to use as a guide for this year, it would be a 471 from 2017. And then you can click on this application number. On the 471, it gives you a little description of what it was, Category 1 or Category 2, and you click on Original Version and it will download it for you. So you can get a copy of that by downloading from the bottom of the landing page. In a perfect world, up here it would say Landing, and you would click on Landing Page, but this is Epic, so we're going to click on Reports, and then we're going to click on Landing Page. Just to know, anytime you see a logo, it will take you to the landing page. So again, the same thing for your 470. If you need to pull up your 470 and verify that your range of bandwidth you're getting is in it. So we had a great question on the break. They said we filed 2 470s. We filed a 470 for what we have already, thinking we'll go with the same provider. And then we filed a 470 for our dream of upgrading bandwidth and getting a whole network for all of our buildings, right? So they filed 2 separate 470s. And he said, we got our dream. So we should claim that 470. I know, tears. We should put that 470 number on that contract. Make sure that that one has it because that has a higher level of bandwidth when what they already had was only 1 gigabit and they're getting more than 1 gigabit. So please make sure what you're applying for is listed on that. It is kind of a smart program. So Hudsonville did not apply for basic maintenance, and if I attempt to apply for basic maintenance, it will give me a warning and say, no, you didn't apply for that. But it is not smart enough to know how much what you said bandwidth-wise. It just looks at the main category. So it will say, oh, you applied for fiber, you're okay. Please make sure you're connecting the right 470 to your contracts before we get started. Yeah, they got their dream. Tear. Hard work done for the year. It's my one win. So here we go down to the landing page, and we're going to click on FCC Form 471. It is in the upper right, one of those easy to find ones. And the first thing it says is, what do you want to name this application? So I am going to call this HUTCUSD1 471 FY. Again, I like to put the range of years of 18-19. That is the school year. It is FY18 for USAC, but FY19 for ISB. So it gets a little confusing. So 18-19 range will help keep it clear in your head. Fiscal year 19 for ISB, fiscal year 18 for USAC. It will, on the 471, you may not do Cat 1 and Cat 2 on the same. So the 470, we could put them all on one form, but the 471, we have to break it out. It is a choose your own adventure form. So if I do the example of Cat 1 and you start doing an example of Cat 2 following along, your screens won't match mine. Just a heads up. So they do look a little bit different from Cat 1 to Cat 2. So I'm going to do a Cat 1 example here. Here, let me put delete me so I know which one to delete in our example. So it's working. Yeah, save and continue. And I know mine's going because it said working. Okay. One thing that is a little bit annoying about the 471 application on the portal is it keeps bringing me into the middle of the page instead of the top. I don't know what that's all about. So you do need to scroll up because there is a question at the top that you can't see unless you scroll up. So I don't know why it's bringing us in the middle, but note that. The very top will say, is there a consultant and are you the main contact person? If you are here today, you probably are. Congratulations, the main contact person. So are you the main contact person? If you are not, you can say no and it will make you choose someone else from the system. If you do not work 12 months and you have a separate phone number or email address or person, if you want them to contact the main district secretary who knows where to find you in the summer when you're not working, please do put that summer information down. As I stated when we got started, PIA is kicking up right off the gate, so you may not even have that be a factor. But it does ask for some of your contact information. They will give you in PIA review, I think it's 10 days to respond. And if you do not reply in 10 days, they will just sit on it for another 10 days or so. And if they still don't hear from you, you have to reach out to them. If you don't reach out to them and say, wait, hold on, give me more time, or here's the answer to your question, they can just deny you. So if they deny you because you didn't respond, then you have to go through a whole appeal process. So please make it easy for them to find you. Save and continue. Now we are choosing category 1 or category 2 for our example. First example, we're going to use category 1 today. And you'll know you're choosing it because it gets bright. So category 1, it is for voice and data transmission. And then it will come up, and this is where it starts sucking the information in from the rest of the portal. So it will say, this is Hudsonville School District. They are a rural district. If you do not have numbers here under state, ID, etc., don't get concerned. She put that in. So we've put in the state RCDT codes in those boxes. Make a note. If you do want to put those numbers in later, you can do so by clicking on the Hudsonville School District, but right now you're locked out. So you can't do it now, but you could do it later. And you can put in various other information. So it is a public school district, and it does not have an endowment. They're just a poor Southern Illinois school district. The next page lists you your students' counts, and so it will tell you this is the number of full and part-time students at this school. This is the number of full and part-time students at the high school. We will make a note because 259 is not the number of full and part-time students. It is according to their fall housing report because they filled out the fall housing report for all of their birth to 3 kids. And so the 17 extra kids that show up here didn't have reports turned in for free and reduced lunch because they are at home. That's the birth to 3 kids where they go out and visit the homes. And so that took her from 80% to 70%. So one of the things that we will be noting in our corrections is please remove 17 from this total. Those are our birth to 3 kids and should not be reflected in the total because taking those 17 out will make them back to 80% again. So that's a big deal for this particular district.
And that number is something that she put in there originally, or that was sucked in?
This was the number that we updated from ISB's information, and then we realized what the discrepancy was. And so she wants to make a note of it and change it. It may be an uphill battle for her to fight to get those numbers validated from ISB, but she has all the reports and everything to show what it is. So we think there's a pretty good shot of getting her that 10% back. Because 10% is a big deal. And note, it does say this is the full-time enrollment, the district, this is how many they have for NSLP. It does give the percentage here, it's 44, but without the 17, it would be 45. And then it does say that they're 70%. We had a lot of discussion the last couple of weeks about whether you are rural or urban. You can attempt to fight that if you want to. If you are listed as urban and you feel like you have more cows than people, by all means, petition. I don't know that you will win, but by all means, put in a help ticket and say, I really think I'm rural. When I click Save and Continue, I get a little box here that says, due to the phase down of voice services, you are not poor enough and you may no longer have voice. So there's probably only one person in the room that has that 90% discount that still gets phones. Yay, you. Everybody else is going to get a little warning that says you can't do phone services. Note, per our conversation at the break, VoIP is considered a phone service, not an internet service, so you can only get 10%. All right, on this page is where we're going to put on our funding request. Notice the bar at the top. You're already halfway done. Okay, this is the meat and the potatoes of it, but you're still already halfway done. Makes you feel a little bit better. We did update our connectivity information earlier, so technically that's just going to suck that right in here. So know that you are almost 3/4 of the way done. This is the tricky part when we look at our funding requests. So this page says funding requests, and we are going to enter a FRN for each service that you're getting. Okay? It'll look a little different in our category 2, so bear with me on that. But this is each service that you're getting, even if it's different providers. If it's phones, it's one, and if it's internet, it's another, even if it comes from the same provider. If it is, if you have the provider that provides you your transport between buildings and your internet, that should be 2 different lines on here. If it's all one contract, you can put it as one FRN and have multiple lines under the FRN. But this is the page where we're going to do the line. So our first example is we are going to say add FRN. It's thinking. While it's thinking, okay, there. Add FRN, it says, please enter your funding request nickname. Anytime it says nickname, it can be whatever you want it to be. So I am going to call this one transport to the internet. All right, and so the first question it says is this a funding request from a previous year? I'm going to say no and pretend this is a brand new contract and connection. If I said yes, I could click copy FRN. That will be our next example. I'll do that one for the ICN service. So down at the bottom it says, what kind of service type is this? In this case, it is data transmission and internet access. So again, I have said, no, it is not a previous year. It is internet access, and this page should now be complete. So the name.
We can hit copy FRN.
You can, but I'm going to do an example of a copy FRN in a minute. So it gets a little confusing. I'm going to do it like an accountant teacher, and I'm going to show you the long way, and then I'm going to show you the short way. So I'm going to click continue. And it says, what is this? It is a contract. So I have my new fake contract that I have up there. And I'm going to say continue. And now it says, okay, you've said it's a contract. Let me look for your contracts. It has put in for me my bin number for the district. So I have that. And if I have any other information about my contract, when I named it, something like that, I could put that in as well. But in this case, I'm just going to click search because there's not too many here on Hudsonville's platform. And I can see several fake contracts. So I'm going to pick the appropriate one, which we're just going to call this one. We'll see how that works out. Nope, we're not going to pick that one. I lied. We're going to pick my I Love E-Rate contract. So it won't let you click more than one. You have to find the right one. I'll do my fake one from working with her. I know, that's the one, that's my category 2 example. Well, this is category 2 example 2. Doesn't matter. I Love E-Rate is going to be our placeholder. In the real world, Charlie Incorporated can't give you internet, but we'll pretend. Okay, so it says contract information. What is the service start date? This is important. It does make it the first day of the year, so that's great. If I knew that that service start date was going to be 6 months later because of install or something, I could do it. I err on the side of caution and always pick the very first day of the year because you don't know when they're actually going to get it installed. So pick the first day of the year for the service start date. If this date ends up being like April or something before, it throws everything off. So just use the date of the start of this fiscal year. And then it says, what is the date your contract expires? And so in this case, we're going to pretend that this expires 6/30/2020.
So that doesn't have to be June 30th, 19, so if you have a 5-year contract.
Right. So the first date is this fiscal year. Even if you're in the middle of a contract and you're in year 2, it needs to be this fiscal year. And it does say when services will start for this funding year. And then this one is the end of the contract. Again, you can, if you're not sure about that, you can go back to, let me remember, landing page, choose a district, and then from district contracts. And you can take a look at your contract and see what the ending date is.
This isn't necessary for just doing it. It's just a continuation of service.
And it is necessary. You have to file for a service every year. That was a good question. So you do have to put it on the 470 every year. You do have to claim it. You could do the easy way of doing the copy FRN, which we're going to do in a minute, or you can fill each step out. It's just yesterday I did it opposite and everybody got confused. So I decided to do the long way first. But you do have to claim every year. That is a misconception that I've heard through the state. Like, oh, I filed for it the first year and it's a 5-year contract, so I don't have to file anything. That's not the case. You do every year have to continue filing. Maybe someday when Chairman Pai gets his way, that will be the case, but it is not as of now. So this next page simply says, if you have a fiber build included, in your contract, you would say, yes, I want special construction, and there are some more options for you. I'm going to click it. I don't think there's anybody in the room that's doing a fiber build, but I'm going to click it to show it. It says this is an FRN for leased fiber, dark fiber, self-provision. This is leased fiber. It is going to be a lit fiber, and I'm going to go through this contract. And it says, please remember, you have to file for the build, and then you have to file for the monthly cost to separate them out. So if you are doing a new build, the build is one thing, the monthly cost is another. So I just wanted to see you all to see those options there. I'm going to pretend this is a build so you can see it. And then it starts asking some pretty detailed questions. So if you are doing a build, you will need to find out from your provider. Remember, your 28 days has passed. You have chosen them. No infractions at this point. Please call them if you do not know the answers and say, this is how many feet are in my project. This is how many strands we are laying in the ground. This is the average cost per strand outside of the plant. And this is the number of eligible strands for E-rate. This is very important on new fiber builds. They can put 12 strands in the ground, but only are lighting up 2 for you. So USAC needs to know that and needs to know that you have calculated that in and you have made some things ineligible. So on the next page from this, it will then say, are you wanting state match? If you're applying for the state match grant, you would say yes. There is a button for that. Even if you didn't apply for the state match grant and you want to do a fiber build, click the box because I just want you to have the option. Again, I'm going to say no back on this page and change it so we can go through with our normal example. I just wanted you to be able to see what that looks like on that page. Way more detail to those that have a build. Now the narrative says, what is it you're applying for? I called it what it was in the title, but I'm going to say transport to the internet for entire district, 2 buildings. ISP will be filed. No, I'm not even going to say that. I could say ISP service would be filed separately, but I don't need to. It is just transport. It is not bundled. If you have a lit fiber, you could say lit fiber bundled transport, if that's coming all to you from one provider. In this particular instance, she has the 2 connections, one for transport, and then Illinois Century Network is her provider. Okay, that was a lot of steps, attaching my contract, getting the generalization of the information all here in this FRN. If 2 minutes from now I feel like, oh no, I forgot something, this does have a fiber build in it, I got to put that back in. To edit it, I would click on the button in front and click Edit FRN. Okay, to edit that information. To add more detail and fill out the rest of my chart with the number of lines and calculations, I click on the FRN number. So to put my dollar amounts and details in, I click on the dollar number, and underneath here I have to, see, looks like the same page, but different. I now have my FRN line items. You will note that while we're looking at this, the tricky things within the form are Cat 1 and Cat 2 are on separate. We're creating new, but we'll do a copy in a minute. If you copy over, and please make sure you adjust your dollar amounts. But the line items have general info, and the line item details have specifics in dollars. You can know that you're in the line item details because it will have a decimal. And again, just a reminder, please cover your current and your future connections. So when I look here at this line item detail, for the first new line item detail that I create, it is going to give me a line item detail 0.001 as my first line item detail. Tricky questions first, and I do have a slide on this, but it talks about what kind of internet connection this is. The first option says it is a bundled service. You were paying Comcast or someone else for your internet and your transport together. That is the main choice for a lot of the school districts in our state. So that is the top service. The next one down says this is a connection between two sites. So it is creating a connection between sites. This is an indicator to you that it is not okay to just group it all together in one bid. It needs to be separate lines. Okay? So all bundled together, connection between sites is here. The next one down says this is transport back to a state network. So this is the transport that I will be choosing for our example. The last one says internet access with no circuit. So this would be our example of ICN or iFiber or one of those various programs. There's a Western Illinois thing going on in the state. So anybody who's providing you internet bandwidth but not the transport would be the last option. So I'm going to choose that this is transport, and I am going to say that it is fiber. I wonder what happens if I choose miscellaneous. I'm just curious. Oh, that's interesting. So miscellaneous has an installation, activation, and initial configuration. So that if that's not included in your price, you can break that out. Other has a radio loop or broadband over power lines. It's good to know. We are going to choose fiber in our case. And then this is where I wish they would correct this. Okay, so your options under what kind of fiber connection you have, start talking in OC lines, and you could, if you pick one of these, OC lines or DS lines, it's going to automatically populate your bandwidth totals into it. We really don't want that. They did break out dark fiber. It would have been really nice to see lit fiber as a choice, because that's really what you're applying for is lit fiber. I don't know if they found that confusing. Instead, we're going to choose Ethernet. That is the best choice, because if you choose Ethernet, it allows you on the next page to put your own speeds in. The rest of them self-populate for you. So in this case, she is currently at 100, but is moving to 200 megabits. And it is reciprocal both up and down in her case. I have in my travels across the state found several contracts that show upload speeds lower than download speeds. If it's fiber, I don't know why they're not giving you reciprocal. I feel like they should, and we'll see what the deal is with that. One of the questions over here is, does it have burstable bandwidth? In her case, the transport does not have burstable bandwidth. It's not something you can just call and say, hey, turn this up for me. On our next example for ICN, you'll see it says yes, because ICN does have in their contract spelled out burstable bandwidth. That's the ability to automatically turn up your internet just by making a phone call. So if you are an ICN customer, you can say, hey, turn up my state network, and for anything less than a gig connection, they will turn you up to a gig, no questions asked. So that is a nice feature to have. It does need to be in your contract, stated in your contract to show that. So we're going to say no on this one. And then it says, is this a direct connection to a single school, library, or NIF? If you are a single school district, you could choose yes. If you are a district where you have all of your buildings here connected, but this one is connected out separately by a different provider, because nobody will go to that outside, the application for that particular connection would be a yes, but otherwise, if it's more than one building, it would be no. Is that confusing? If it's connecting more than one building, it would be no. In your sake back there, for the ROE, alternative school, it's probably yes, because you only have the one entity. It also asks, is this a connection between eligible schools? And in this case, it's also no. Happens to be that these eligible schools are all really in the same building for this sake. But is it a connection between the eligible schools? It wants to know, are you making a wide area network? The answer here is no. If it is that network piece that you're connecting buildings, the answer there would be yes. And does it include firewall service? It probably does not in most cases. However, you can choose to get firewall service from some providers. If you ask for it, it's an additional charge. This next page makes you break out the dollar amounts. So we are going to be using the left column for this example because it's category 1 and we have monthly cost amounts. And we are going to say it's $1,500 a month. The next one is ineligible costs. If I knew that there was something on my line that was ineligible, I would need to put it there. Please do not do the math yourself and say, it's $1,500 a month, but $200 of that is ineligible because of whatever reason, so I'm just going to put $1,300. Please do not do that. Spell it out like it says on your invoice, $1,500, $200, and then it will do the math for you. You will get questions if you don't spell it out. They want to see all the totals themselves. The monthly quantity in this case is 1. Please note that it is 1 and not 12, because if I got confused and I thought that it was 12 because it's 12 months, now all of a sudden my $18,000 goes to 216. So it is 1 as the monthly quantity. I do have to fill out zeros over here on the one-time cost for it to be able to fill out and do my totals down here at the bottom. Please note, if this had a new connection and I was paying $1,500 a month, but I had a one-time cost of build out of 20 grand, that does not go on the screen. They really want you to do them on opposite pages. So those are our monthly totals, and we are here at the end of our document, and we are going to go ahead and say save and continue. It will then ask, is this for all schools in the district? Please specify which schools this is for. In this case, it is every school. If you have that separate connection, like Murrayville would be an example in your existing connection, you would say no and choose just Murrayville. But it is yes in this example. And again, then it just confirms and you say yes. And it takes you back. I know this is my line item detail because of the decimal. So in order to edit line item details, you have to click on the number to get in. In order to edit FRNs, you have to click the box in front and then say edit FRN. So it gets a little tricky. This is my Ethernet line of just this connection. This is the only line that I have from here. If I had a build out of $20,000, I would do another FRN line item to this same vendor, and I would do a one-time charge of $20,000 for that build and select all that other information that's in it. But in this case, this is my fiber internet. So I'm going to say continue. So that in true teacher fashion was the hard way, the long way. For all of you who are going to have contracts that you're just continuing over, there is this nice new button that will allow you to copy over. So let's do that as an example. So I'm going to click Add FRN. I am going to say this is Internet Access ISP only ICN. Is this a continuation from a previous year? Yes. Yes, it is. It says, please put the previous year FRN number. So I need that information. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to go to my cheat page, and I'm going to go to eratecentral.com. If you are looking at your current application, you may have the FRN number in front of you. My cheat page is to go to eratecentral.com, come down here to their wonderful funding history search tool, and put in my billed entity for my district, it will tell me all of the money I have spent in the past, and I'm going to look at last year and say, what is my Illinois Century Network FRN? Oh, there it is. Copy. And go ahead and put that in here. So, what is my FRN number? It is this number. I'm going to click the box that says copy FRN, and I'm going to hold my breath. And it says working, and then it's going to say, oh wait, I couldn't find it. Not an error, always does it, every single time. Put it in again. And then I am going to say search again. And this time it will find it. And it will say, this is internet access, ISP only. This is the nickname that you named it in the past. It is through Illinois Century Network. And this is what you said that it was category-wise. I'm going to say, yep, that's the one. Same service as last year. And click the box in front. Okay, now I get a disclaimer and it says, you are copying over. It's going to take a minute. Are you sure? So my answer is yes, because 1 minute is better than the 10 it just took me to file it individually. It's thinking. It's going to give me this wonderful refresh page with the spinny circle that, again, we all know means it will spinny circle forever until I hit refresh. So I'm going to click refresh. And it says, good news, your FRN has been successfully copied. Please go make sure that all of the information is correct. So here I have my nickname. I gave it. It says, now, is it a continuation from a previous year? I don't know why it changes it to no, but it does. It says data transmission. That's what I chose last year, so that's correct. I just have to click through the pages and verify it is a contract. You can change it to yes if you want to. It clicks it to no. I don't know why. And then if it says yes, then you have more options to click on. So I'm just leaving it as no. It does leave, this is a change from last year when we did the copy tool. It didn't work so perfectly last year. One of the problems was it copied in the service start date and nobody changed it. And then USAC had to call everybody and say your service start date was wrong and fix it. So they did take that entirely out this year, so you do have to put the dates in. So it will be a service start date of 7/1/2018. And then again, your contract end date. So this is where you'd want to look on your contract and see. Again, the same questions as before. There is no build on this. It is just a continued service of internet access. And this one says it brought the narrative over for me. So remember I said I needed to change my student numbers. So somewhere on this form I need to do my student numbers. I'm just going to pick this narrative. And in this narrative I'm going to say, please subtract 17 from my student count in the grade school. For a new, I guess that's 2 words, for a new total of, I think it was 147, or 247. I'll do the math and make sure. For a new total of 247, the 17 should be removed. So I have made a note of reflecting my student count. If all of your student counts are off and you want to change it, you can say, this building has this many students, this many part-time students, and this many eligible for free and reduced lunch. You can spell it all out here. You only need to put it in one narrative. If you're filing for both Category 1 and Category 2, I would put it in one narrative of each because you don't know which form will be pulled up first. But your PIA reviewers would be happy to make those changes for you. I say on their behalf. I now have my 2 FRNs. If I was a 90% district, I could do another FRN for phones. It will not let me because I am not 90%. So I try to and it says, too bad for you, you are not 90%. So it will not allow me to do that. The next page says continue to certification, and this is the part where you really need to pay attention, because when I clicked to continue to certification, look what happened. Nothing. It just kicked me out of the system. No warning. No, hey, I'm going to certification now. No, you can find this under tasks in a few minutes. No special thing. It just totally kicked me out. A little concerning for those who are filing on their own. When I go back to the landing page, it does take a few minutes and it doesn't show up in my tasks right away. So again, you were already panicking because you got kicked out. Now you can't find it in my tasks and you're thinking you lost everything. Just wait a minute. Click refresh at the top. Maybe get a cup of coffee. It's still not there. I wish that they could understand the panic that like your heart races after you filled out all of that information. Now it's gone. A warning would be nice. Or maybe a little YouTube video that you could watch about how wonderful E-rate is while you were waiting for it. Review the PDF for the FCC Form 471. Just like our 470, you're going to click the document to download it and take a look at it. It is simply, very simply, about 12 pages usually. So it will have each one. One thing that looks a little funny on your printout, and I've had this in the past, is that you have the FRN information, including the contract, etc. So that's the FRN part. Then it starts going to the breakout totals, the line item details with the 0.001, and it lists your dollar amount. And then it says which schools, right? And on a totally another page, it lists the dollar amount again. I don't know why. So it's like it does the detail and then it does the whole line item, I think. So if I had multiple lines underneath it, it would give me a grand total one. In this case, it happens to be the same. So that is normal to see that twice. Here again is our internet access note. Here was our change of student counts. And then again, we have the dollar amount. I never put in the dollar amounts for ICN. It sucked them all forward. There is a place to edit it. You click on the number to go in and edit it. So if your dollar amounts are different for ICN, for some reason, I would need to go in and change it. But it brought all of that forward for me. Actually, I do need to change it because it says the upload and the download speed are 50, and now it's 200. So I will have to go in and change that. So I have seen a discrepancy. I do need to change. I'm going to click out of that PDF and go back to my form. To edit the form, I can go back. Here's my very first page. It's the only annoying thing about it is I would hope that it would take me to the ending page, and it takes me to the beginning. The change that I need to make is on my dollar amount page, so it is not on my paging through all the information. Yes, I know I can't get phones. There we go. So my change that I need to make for my for my internet access was not in the main contract. I have to click on the number to get to the line item detail page. I have to click on the line item detail page, and then I have to say continue. My change is 200 instead of 50. A good place to remember this is, this was continued from a previous year. I am upgrading from 50 to 200. This is a previous year contract. I can do that upgrade without filing another 470 because on my original 470, I had a range from 50 to 500. So even though I'm in year 3 of this contract, I can do this upgrade because it was on my 470. I didn't have to file a new 470 and go through the whole process. It is allowable.
Okay, wait a minute. So, say that we're in the middle of a contract with ICN and we're upgrading our bandwidth.
Right. So if you have a 3-year contract with ICN and you were in the middle of it and you were upgrading your bandwidth, as long as you stated on that original 470 a range to choose from, you can upgrade within that range without filing another 470. If your 470 said 50 megabits to 50 megabits, you'd be out of luck. You'd have to file another 470.
My first 470 from...
Your first 470 when you signed the contract from 2 years ago, because you're in the middle of the 3-year contract.
So I need to go back and see if I put the right range.
Just make sure that the range is there on that original one. And if the range is there, you can upgrade without claiming a new 470. You can just continue. Right.
Can I change the number of years, or it has to stay within?
It has to stay within that contract year. If you're signing a whole new contract with them for 3 more years, then just do it as a new contract.
I see annual extend it for 5 more years from now, then I should just.
Yeah, I mean, in your case, I think it sounds like a better deal to just put it in as new contract and go 5 years from now. But if your 470 that you filed this year had a range and you said 1 gig is the highest, like I told you to, then you have up to a gig. So anytime over the next 5 years, you can do the copy FRN and you can just change the numbers and change the dollar amounts. So she was going from 50 to 200. That's allowable because it was up to a gig on her 470 from the original year. And then I'm going to say all of these are still correct. But the dollar amount, instead of being 428, I think it's 540. I'm not positive, but 540 for 200 megabits. And then when I change that, it will populate up and change everything to 540. So I can change my dollar amounts to reflect the new upgrade that I'm doing. That is allowable within my first original 470. It is for both buildings. And that did update my line item information. I can see it here. So, again, continued certification is going to kick me out for a minute, but I'm almost ready to certify, so I'll finish our example before we do lunch. This time it warned me. Oh, look. The next step, Epic will recreate a PDF for you. Once it's completed, it will assign you a task without, well, at least I got a warning this time. That was nice. I wonder what I clicked differently to get a warning. I got a little box that time that said, Epic's going to kick you out, and you'll see it in your tasks. The first time I didn't. Again, there should be a YouTube video about the wonderfulness of E-rate. Maybe a little informational video on net neutrality. Have you seen the Burger King commercial about net neutrality? You should totally watch it. So here's my review PDF. Again, I could click on it and check it. I'm assuming it's all right, so I'm going to check the box and continue to certification. This is the last step for your form. It is certifying. If you do not certify your form and your superintendent is, you say send for certification, and then you go down and tell your superintendent, please log in, or wait. You sit down with your superintendent and say, this is your password, log them in. Get them into the form and fill it all out and certify. The first box, let me translate USACs to English for you. The first box says, I am eligible because I'm a school. The second box says, I will have internet or computers and things in my district to use this internet. The next box gives you a summary of what you've asked for, minus what USAC is paying for, giving you will be responsible for the $7,000 this year. If you would like to put additional budgets, resources in for reflection for your board or whatever, you may. You do not have to. Here are the questions. This one says, my internet provider is paying for my portion. Or no, my internet provider filed my 470. The answer is no. That's against the rules. This one says, my internet provider is paying for my portion. The answer is no. That is also against the rules. You did wait your 28 days. You are following all the laws to the best of your ability. You do know that if your community goes together and wins the Powerball tonight, it could change your discount level. You are applying on behalf of your district and following all of the rules. You do acknowledge that your discount level can change from year to year. You will keep everything for 10 years, and you can be audited for that time frame. You are notified as the person you are capable of filing on behalf of your district. You are not a criminal. And I realize that some of the components may be eligible or ineligible, and you will have that conversation with PIA if they question you on anything. Again, lastly, this very last one says, I certify that the cost of the eligible services will not be paid by the service provider. This used to be a trick question, and it said, the service provider is paying my portion. It's no longer a trick question. So we are clicking all the boxes and saying no, no on the pull downs. So all the boxes and no, no. You should read each one and know what you're certifying. One of the attorneys at USAC made a joke last year that he asked them to put in a select all button, and the lawyers told him no. I thought that was kind of funny. Then you would click on certify to certify it. I will not, because I don't want to certify on Julie's behalf. That's hers to do. So any questions on the Category 1 application? You are welcome to continue working on Category 1 through lunch. We're going to do lunch here and take a break. And then when we come back, we will do an example of Category 2. Again, a couple of things on the slides to point out. I do have a slide that shows the options. So this is a bundled. This next one is between buildings. This next one is transport. And this is only internet service. So I do have that spelled out on a slide. Addition to that, on the Category 1, if you are doing special construction, please talk to me. There is a state match button. So when you click on special construction for that certain amount, I encourage you to click the state match button. Even if you didn't apply for the state match, please check it. We're looking for some loopholes to see if we can run that application process a second time for those who might have missed the window. I don't know that that's going to go through, but we are definitely looking for anybody who's interested in the state match to be able to have that as an option. Please do check the box. If you have a set amount for build out. If you are doing the state match and you did apply and you are waiting for your approval letter from ISB, don't click submit yet. Hold out. Maybe you can get your letter from ISB for approval before you submit. However, if you're really anxious about it and you want to go ahead and submit, do it. We have been told that USAC will not, they'll request the letter in PIA review. So there is a place to upload your letter of approval. If you don't have it yet, don't fret. Just go ahead and submit. ISB has said for those who applied for the state match, they will try to get those letters out prior to the deadline of March 22nd. So their goal is the week before. And get all your details ready if you're asking for a build. There are a lot of details to fill out.